As you may know, if you've been with me on any amount of time, my work is aimed at supporting you along the path to personal mastery. Now, recently I reached out to all of you guys as part of this amazing community to ask what topics you wanted me to cover. Many of you replied, and I want to pick one in particular from Angie Knowles, who said, "Where do I start as a complete beginner?" I've coached many people now over the years, and most people enter stage 1 of the 5-stage path to personal mastery because life is becoming too uncomfortable, too painful to remain the same. Normally this awareness has come from a major life event, so whether that's serious health diagnosis, whether that's grief, whether that's divorce, or whether that's burnout. If this sounds and resonates with you, then you're going to get a lot from today's video. You're going to learn, 1, how to simplify the process of change, how to understand change, and the most important thing about that is it's going to help you stick the change that you seek. The second thing you're going to learn is why and how to begin a self-regulation practice. What does that mean? The third thing you're going to learn today is how to develop a self-awareness practice. Now, if you're new to my videos, please click the subscribe button and click the bell. That way you'll be notified each and every week when I release new content. So when you've done that, let's dive straight in. I'm Richard Hussaini, coach, speaker, and here to support you along your path to personal mastery. And quite simply, the path to personal mastery is the inner work for outer action, to understand your thoughts, feelings, and actions in life. So on to part 1 of today's video, how to simplify the process of change. I want to introduce you to a few frameworks that we use within the coaching and with how we kind of look at personal mastery, because it's not as simple as thinking, I'm uncomfortable now, I need to change, we change. Think of the New Year's resolutions, or you think of the times when you've kind of wanted a change or you've put off change. There are many different layers that sit underneath that make change successful or kind of continuous reverting back to old ways. The reason we slip is simply because change is uncomfortable. It's only to the point where we are right now becomes unbearable that we seek to make new ways of being. So there are 5 steps to one of the frameworks we use, and step 1 is our old way. Our old way of being. It's how we are when we're cruising, it's our comfort zone. It's when we're ticking along, when we're not necessarily happy, but we're happy to be unhappy in that state. Things haven't got so bad that we're needing to change. Step 2 is about, well, change happens, life happens, and these are when these events occur. Change happens through many different reasons, and it'd be great to hear kind of your moments of change that are leading you to watch videos like this. For example, as I said, my process of change was grief. Well, losing my mother to cancer was the awareness of like, wait a minute, I need to do life differently. 1, the awareness of how I was living my life, but 2, the discomfort that I was living in that I was particularly unaware of before those moments. And so it's a moment in your life that's forced you to look at your life. It could be you need to make health changes. You need to make changes to your lifestyle to improve your health. It could be that you've been forced out of a relationship. It could be right now that you're considering the relationship that you're in that you're not happy with. How do you make that better? Or is it time to move away? And like I said, there are many different avenues. It could be the work you're in. It could be you're just so miserable turning up each day to the job that you're doing right now that you're just at the point where enough is enough. And so this is where the change happens. It's awkward, it's painful, it's forcing you to look at life. Now, step 3 is where we resistance. So we know we need to change. We start to think about it, but it becomes really uncomfortable. And so we try and maintain the same lifestyle that we're used to. Now, going back to the relationship example, we could be making excuses. Oh, it'll be okay. It will get better in time. Once we go on this holiday, it will improve. It could be the same about a job. Oh, I just need to get a pay rise, or I just need to get that promotion and I'll be happy. It could be about your health. You know, oh, I'm not eating so bad. I'm looking after myself. It could be you're justifying the other way, where you're training so hard that you justify, well, I'm healthy when I'm doing this. The kind of distorted views that we have of life. We try and resist the change because we hold on so deeply to that comfort zone. Now, if this resonates with you, again, please feel free to comment below. I'd love to hear your stories and your perspectives on this. Step 4 in this framework is chaos. We realize we can't maintain our old lives. We realize we're so unhappy. We need to make those changes, and enough is enough. When we do that, we step away from our comfort and we enter into this chaotic period of, well, what do I do? Who am I? What am I without this job? What am I without this relationship? I'm going to be alone. What am I if I don't make these changes to my health? It's the uncomfort of making the health changes, the food changes, the lifestyle changes, breaking up from that relationship, leaving that job, the actual confidence and the empowerment of, right, I'm handing in my resignation, I've done it. Now what? So it's very chaotic. And the important thing to notice in this stage is that it's part of change. It's not wrong, it's not bad, it's not nothing. It's important to feel the chaos, because once we feel chaos, we're realizing, right, we're beginning to step away from those old ways and we're entering into the path of creating new. So to feel chaos, however turbulent that is an important step to make and to embrace that chaotic feeling. Step 5 is integration. So after a period of time we're in that chaotic phase, we begin to try new things. So it could be you start to watch videos like this. It could be that you begin to make those lifestyle changes towards a healthier you. Whether it could be taking up exercise, or it could be, in my example, stripping your exercise back to a healthier, sustainable, more longevity-focused direction. And so to bring that awareness, it's, what are you doing? Your integration from a new job would be, okay, well, what do you really want to do? What kind of jobs do you want to do? What skills do you have? What are you drawn to learn about? Now, of course, there's a financial component to leaving a job, but in a way that motivation of, right, I need to work. What is it that I want? What do I really want to do? If I'm going to spend 6 to 8 hours a day doing something, what is it that I want to do? And so the integration is really about trying new things, being brave, opening up your comfort zone, opening up a growth mindset, and just going into different avenues of interest for yourself. Once you've done that, once you've established a pattern, once you've put in some practice, once you've found an area that is resonating with you and that you're drawn to do and you're motivated to do, then we enter the final stage, and that's the new status quo, the new level. And there's no specific time frames on this, but once you reach your new job, maybe it's a new relationship, maybe it's not a relationship. If you're used to constantly getting in and out of relationships, maybe this new integration, a new phase for you, is about being on your own. Maybe you're starting to treat yourself and really get to know, what do you want? What is it you want in life? Who are you outside of a relationship? And by doing that, you get to know yourself more, and then you enter into relationships in a brand new way. So on to part 2 of today's video. Why and how to start with self-regulation. A definition of self-regulation is the ability to monitor and manage your energy states, emotions, thoughts, and behaviors that produce positive results such as well-being, loving relationships, and learning. How does that sound to you? Does that resonate with you? Is that something that you practice right now? Taking a step back, it's really how we deal with stress in our life. It's laying the foundation to how we manage and how we deal with ourselves during the inevitable stresses that we come across within life. And stress is crucial in life. It allows us to grow. Developing this self-regulation ability requires self-awareness. It requires emotional intelligence. It requires putting in some practices. Simply without doing this, without developing your ability to self-regulate across multiple different situations, you're going to leave yourself open to chronic stress, to illness, to burnout. Once we've developed a consistent self-care practice, consistent self-regulation practice, and beginning to feel the benefits of it, 1, it lays the foundation, but 2, we can then begin to take on more advanced ideas really with regards to how we integrate or interact with other people in our relationships, in our professional lives, and also become more comfortable with being uncomfortable. And so how do you do it? How do you improve your self-regulation? And really it's about practices. And it includes how well you move your body, not for performance, but for nourishment, for improving the longevity, for improving your health span, making sure your health span is as close to your lifespan as possible. What's nourishing? It's involved in kind of what you consume, the type of food you eat, the people you put yourself and surround yourself around, the type of media you watch or you read or digest. These are kind of fundamental cornerstones to self-regulation. They're part of what influences us and what creates us to feel certain ways. And as powerful as they are, the very, very first step I invite you to take, if this is the video for you in terms of where do I start as a beginner, is to develop a breath practice. A breath practice will help you profoundly in one, being able to take control of your nervous system, to be aware of what's going on within your system, within your physiology, and to give you a tool to manage that, to make changes within that. You'll be able to shift yourself into a calmer state. You'll be able to use breath to allow yourself to become clear and focused when you need to be. And if you struggle with sleep, it'll help significantly with helping you to improve the quality of sleep. Not just one breath practice, but the physiological changes that come from just using your breath in a different way. You know, thinking back to the framework in part 1 of this video, when we enter into that chaotic phase, there's going to be an inevitable anxiety about that, a kind of a panicky feeling of fear in that. Now, if we listen to that, we'll slip back into old ways because it's comfortable, it's what we know. But to maintain the confidence, to maintain the focus in that chaotic phase, just by learning to use your breath, you'll be able to manage that chaotic state. You'll be able to get calm. You'll be able to get perspective on what is actually happening. I've done many videos on daily self-care checklists, and so it involves movement, it involves breath work, it involves meditation. And so you can find those links below. So if this is new to you and you haven't got a practice at all, then just check out some of those videos after this one and you'll find some nice introductory practices that you can begin to use. The main thing I'll say is consistency is the key. Don't, it's often see people go off and think, right, that's it, I'm going to change my life in 3 weeks. I'm going to do breath work for an hour a day. I'm going to do all this movement changes. I'm going to do all these changes. And it just becomes unsustainable because it's too much too soon. I would say to you that bookend your days to start with. So when you wake up, before you check your phone, before you kind of enter into the external world, stay within and enter into very, very calm state, calm breathing practice. Now, as I said, the links are below for you to check out with some of those. And then before you go to bed, do the same thing again. Enter into a calming breath practice that begin to get you ready for a good quality night's sleep. On to the final part 3 of today's video. How to develop your self-awareness. Once you've got your self-regulation, once you've got your breath practices, you're beginning to use them, you're beginning to kind of understand which you like and which don't work for you so well. The next step is to become aware, to continue to develop that awareness. The simple way of doing that is by being present, the focus on being present in the moment. And this can be very uncomfortable because when we first direct our awareness within our body, the physical sensations, and within our mind, the thoughts that are going on endlessly, we realize how uncomfortable it is and how much suffering we're going through. And so this is why we distract ourselves. We distract ourselves with binge watching aimless TV, or we constantly on our social feeds, or we overwork, or we over exercise, or we overeat, or other addictions that are there solely to distract us and ease us from our suffering. The start is to just notice the noise and the discomfort of your inner world. That is all that is needed to it. Practicing without judgment, just noticing what's going on, noticing the thoughts that come into your mind, the crazy thoughts that will come in, the often maybe shameful thoughts that arise in your mind, the kind of aggression or the resentment or the judgments or the negative self-talk. You can list them forever, couldn't you? They're just endless. But to notice them is the first step and the most powerful step in developing awareness. In time, you'll begin to develop clarity. I promise you that. You'll begin to get clarity on that inner world and there'll be a separation. You won't be in it, and I liken it to the analogy of being on stage. You won't be the actor on the stage anymore. You'll be more and more in the audience. You'll be able to kind of get You'll be in the front row to start with, and then you'll work your way back until ultimately you're all the way as high as you can in what's referred to as the cheap seats, but I would say that's where we're aiming for, to have a nice overview perspective of our life and what's happening. And we'll see the actors come in and out of our life, and that's a good thing. We won't be so prone to reaction. We won't be so prone to being drawn into the show that we're witnessing. And so I'll just list a few examples of what that looks like when you develop that awareness and that clarity. So when you fiercely defend yourself to be right rather than effective, you'll be able to see when you're really digging your heels in, and you'll begin to notice it. Why am I fiercely defending this position? Not to say it's not, that's required at sometimes, but where is the empathy? What is the reason you're defending yourself? Is it because you're very clear on the discussion that you're having, or is it because that's what you've learned? And if it is what you've learned, do you still agree with it? The next one would be when you notice you don't really listen. You're just waiting for that person to finish. You're already formulating your response to what that person first said, and you haven't heard anything else what they're saying. You're just waiting for them to listen so then you can say your piece. You'll begin to be more aware of things like that. Another example would be when you jump to conclusions without sufficient facts. You're more aware of, okay, I think this, or I've acted like this, but why have I acted like this? What data did I respond to? Or is this something that I'm assuming? I'm jumping to conclusions. Another example would be when you notice your thoughts are non-stop and random. They'll become a separation. You'll see your thoughts will be just constantly coming, and that's not bad. You'll be able to see that, oh yeah, there's another one, there's another thought, there's another resentment, there's another judgment, but you won't be jumping onto them. You'll be able to kind of get a bit of separation between them. And the last example is when your physical discomfort is driving your bad moods and reactions. So this is a big one for me. So realizing the awareness of my moods are highly governed by how I feel in my body. Now, I have an autoimmune condition, so I'm on quite a strict eating lifestyle, I suppose. So if I do venture off, of course, when I do, sometimes it's all right, sometimes I don't. And so if I have discomfort in my body, that makes me in a bad mood. Or it could be on an energetic level. It could be from multiple different reasons. But without that awareness of, okay, what's going on with my body? Am I feeling all right? Am I feeling good? Am I feeling kind of stressed out? That influences my thoughts. And I've covered another video on that called Introception with Lisa Feldman Barrett. You can check that out below. And the whole idea is that our brain interprets our feelings first and then makes up our emotions to suit those interoceptive feelings. Really, it's about kindness, compassion. Maybe you've heard that before. Many esoteric traditions will say that. Once you start to apply these into your life, and I think one of the hardest things is applying that compassion to ourselves, to yourself, because we're not used to. We're so self-critical, we're so judgmental, that developing that softness towards ourselves helps so much in this process. It has to be lived, has to be experienced like anything. Knowledge is powerful, but experience is the true teacher. And so I hope that's offered you some insight into where to start if you're a complete beginner. If you are a complete beginner and you want some kind of framework, there's a free guide for you to download below, and it's called the 4 Simple Steps to Self-Care. And it's really quite a really nice overview on, one, how to use movement to ease chronic pain, and there are video tutorials. How to make very subtle changes to your nutrition to improve your health. How to get the best night's sleep you've had in ages. How to switch your mindset from a very closed, negative mindset into a growth, open mindset. And you'll learn about flow state. And it's free for you to use below. You also get some breath examples, breath training, breath exercises for you to follow. As I said, it's free for you to use. Download the link, follow the instructions, you'll get it right away. So over to you. What do you think of this video? Are you a complete beginner? What have you taken away? What has helped you? I'd love to hear. Please just leave your comments below. And as always, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for giving your feedback on topics to follow. I'll continue to read them and to make videos like this in response to what you want. So thank you again, have a wonderful week, and I'll see you on a new episode.